Hi, my name is AYUNI binti AMERRUDIN and my student ID is 20208124446 and I am from group AC1101K.
My name is NORMAISARAH binti ABDUL MANAN from class AC1101K.
My name is NURUL and I'm going to talk about economies of scale.
My name is LIYANA HUSNA binti FITRI. My student ID is 2020880516. I'm from AC1101K. I'm a student of Diploma in Accountancy.
Okay, so we're going to look at chapter 5, which is the theory of production and costs. Okay, so we're going to look at the definition of production. So what is the definition of production? It is the process by which inputs are combined, transformed, and turned into outputs. So if we look at this diagram, first we can see the inputs, which are the land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs. Soon when the inputs are processed, it will become the outputs, which are the goods and services. Okay, let's say you want to bake a chocolate cake. So prior to baking a chocolate cake, you might need to buy the ingredients first. So the ingredients are the flour, eggs, butter, and baking chocolate. Those ingredients are the inputs. And the chocolate cake, whereas the chocolate cake will be the output. So that is the example of inputs and outputs. Okay. Now, we look at the classification of factors of production or inputs. Okay, so we have land and labor. So what is the land? A land refers to natural resources. The activities such as farming, planting, fishing, mining, foresting, etc. And the payment for the use of land is rent. Rent ni sewa. Next is labor. Labor ni buruh. Labor involves physical skill and mental skill in producing goods or services. So the quantity is determined by size of population, age distribution, etc. And the quality is determined by level of education, training, etc. So the payment for the use of labor is wages. Wages ni upah. And this is labor. Okay, and then we have capital and entrepreneur. So what is a capital? Capital ni modal. So from here we can see that capital is tools and equipment used in producing capital or consumer goods. Usually another example of capital is equipment, buildings, man-made material. Those are the examples of a capital. Capital goods is an investment that facilitates the production of consumer goods. And the payment for the use of capital is interest. Next, we move to entrepreneur. Entrepreneur ni usahawan. So from here we can see that an entrepreneur is a person who takes the initiative to combine all the resources. Entrepreneur usually makes decisions on what, how, and for whom to produce. So they also bears all the risks, meaning concisely that entrepreneurs, they are willing to take risks. So they are like the challenge, they like to take challenges, they take risks. The payment for the entrepreneur is profit. Profit is untung. Okay, so in economics we have two types of inputs, which are a fixed input and a variable input. Okay, so what is a fixed input? A fixed input is an input which the quantity does not change according to the amount of output. Okay, let's say kita nak buat banyak mana pun barang, the fixed input does not change. Like this, land and capital. For example, we only have one machine. Kita ada satu mesin je. Kita tak boleh nak tambah banyak mesin lebih daripada satu. Contohnya kita tak boleh tambah 5 mesin. That is because it is due to our limited resources. Or maybe kita kekangan duit. However, with that one machine, we can still increase production, or maybe we can still produce more goods and services. But also, there can even happen a phase where there will be no production at all, or maybe the production will never happen because it is a fixed input, meaning that in the short run, a fixed input does not change as output changes. Okay, that is a fixed input. So we move to a variable input. What is a variable input? It is an input which the quantity changes according to the amount of output. Maksudnya kita tambahkan input sebab kita nak produce lagi banyak. Meaning the more output, the more input we need to buy. For example, like labor. This labor. Let's say we want to bake 20 chocolate cakes. So in order to bake 20 chocolate cakes, we need to buy more flours, more eggs, more baking chocolates, more butter. Because if you only buy one butter, one egg, it's not enough. It is not enough to produce 20 chocolate cakes. So that is why the more outputs we produce, the more inputs that we need to buy. That is a variable input. Okay? Okay, so now we look at the production function. What is a production function? Okay, a production function is a statement of the functional relationship between inputs and outputs where it shows the maximum output that can be produced with given inputs. Meaning, dengan input yang kita ada, berapa yang paling banyak output yang kita boleh hasilkan. Dia ada sampai output dia, kita nak tengok berapa banyak, paling banyak output yang kita boleh hasilkan dengan input yang kita ada tu. Okay, so that is a production function. So here is the equation for a production function to find the output, whereas Q is the output equals to F. F refers to the inputs. So F is the input, K, L, M, etc. K is the capital, L is the labor, and M refers to the raw materials. Okay, get it? Okay, so we look at the time range in the short run. Okay, so in the short run, a short run is a period which at least one of the inputs, or known as factor of production, is fixed and other inputs can be varied. Okay, concisely it means that in the short run we have two types of inputs, which is the fixed input and the variable input. Okay, so why is a fixed input in the short run? Okay, because a fixed input, it cannot be altered in terms of quantity in the short run. This is because, okay, contohnya kita ada machine, kita ada satu machine je. In the short run, contohnya in the short run, we cannot tambahkan lagi banyak machine due to the limited resources, kekangan duit, semua tu. But however, in the long run, maybe dia dah cukup duit untuk beli lagi banyak machine. So that is why in the short run, we have fixed inputs. Okay, so in the short run, we assume that at least one of the inputs are fixed. That is capital. Okay, capital macam tadi lah, machinery, semua man-made materials, semua tu. Therefore, in the short run, the production function can be written as Q, whereas the output equals to F, the inputs, and K, L. K, whereas the capital must be a fixed input. Okay, the capital is always a fixed input. And the L is the labor. Okay, so now we look at the laws of productions. As you can see, we have two types of laws of production. There are two laws of production. First is the law of diminishing marginal returns, and second, the law of returns to scale. Okay, now we look at the law of diminishing marginal returns. Okay. So what is the law of diminishing marginal returns? From here we can see that the law of diminishing marginal returns refers to the short run production function where there is at least one fixed factor or input. This law is also known as the law of variable proportions. So the more variable input combined with fixed input at one point, output would be decline. In law of diminishing return, there are concepts of total product, average product, and marginal product. Okay, so what does this mean? The more variable input combined with fixed input at one point, output would be decline. Okay, this sentence here means that, okay, for example, we only have one brain, but then our lecturer keeps giving lectures for a long period of time, like continuously giving lectures, for example, until 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. Okay, our brain is the fixed input, while the lecture that the lecturer is giving is the variable input. Okay, from here we can see that when the lecturer keeps giving lectures and keeps teaching for a very long period, our brain will not function and absorb or digest properly anymore after a long period of time due to exhaustion, because our brain is tired, our brain needs a rest. So from this example, there is a certain level of toleration. So we can conclude that what is output will be decline means is there is a certain point where as variable inputs increase, the outcome does not increase. The fixed input does not increase. That is what the output would be decline means. Okay? Okay, so now we look at the concept of total product, average product, marginal product. Okay. So, from here we can see the total product is TP. So, a total product is the maximum output that can be produced by firms using different combinations of inputs. So, we refer it as TP equals to AP times QL, where TP is the output and the QL is the quantity of variable factor. So, bear in mind that L refers to labor. But even though it does not necessarily have to be labor, sometimes it can also be something else like capital ke, dia boleh jadi benda lain. But usually we want to see the contribution of the labor, so that is why we use QL. Okay? And for average product, which is the AP is the output per unit of variable input or total product divided by quantity of variable factor. So the total output divided by the amount of variable input is derived by this formula. TP divided by QL. Usually ni nak kira purata lah, purata untuk pekerja tu. Okay, purata contribution pekerja tu. Okay, next we move to the marginal product, which is the MP. So, what is a marginal product? A marginal product, MP, is the change in the total product when one more unit of a variable factor is employed with all others input used remain constant. Meaning the change, okay, this is the formula. The change, this triangle is the change of total product divided by change of quantity of variable factor or quantity labor lah. So, kalau yang ni dia nak cari purata kan, average product, they want to find purata. So, marginal product, they want to find contribution untuk seorang labor saja. Dia nak cari seorang-seorang punya contribution. Yang ni nak purata, nak kira secara purata, but this one, there is no purata. Okay? Okay, so this is the table to calculate the TP, MP, and AP. So, from here we can see from the formula we discussed earlier, we can solve each of these TP, MP, and AP. So when they give the TP, we can calculate the AP. Same goes when they give the MP, we can calculate the TP. And when they give the AP, we can calculate the TP. It's just simple maths. We can calculate based on the informations given. Okay, first we have to see the capital, which is the fixed input. Okay, as we see here, the number of capitals are constant because it is a fixed input. For example, we want to produce chairs, so we only have 10 machines. So the machines are constant. The number of machines, the amount of machines are constant. And the variable input, which is the labor, we want to identify and check and see their contribution to the production. So we have to increase each labor. We have to increase the labor to see their contribution. That is why it is a variable input. So from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and then we increase 3, we increase 4 labors. Okay, so how are we going to calculate the MP, AP, and etc.? From here, they give the total product. So the marginal product, how to calculate? Change in, from the formula, we know that marginal product, how to calculate, change in TP divided by change in QL, which is the quantity of labor. So from here, we do not have to calculate anything by this stage because even though there is a capital, there is a 10 capital here, but then the labor, there is no labor there. That is why when there is no labor, there is no production. They cannot produce anything because there is no labor. So we do not have to calculate anything here, but we move on to the first labor, how much they contribute. So to calculate MP dia, change in TP, maksudnya the new tolak previous bahagi new tolak previous, baru tolak old. Meaning 8 minus 0 divided by 1 minus 0 equals to 8. So that is the marginal product for the first labor. And same goes for the second labor. 20 tolak 8 bahagi 2 tolak 1, we get 12. We do not have to take 20 tolak kosong, 2 tolak 1 kosong. No, we just take the previous one. New tolak previous bahagi new tolak previous. So this is the marginal product for the second labor. And same goes for the third and the fourth and the 5 and everything in tandem. And now to calculate the average product from the formula, it is total product divided by quantity of labor, meaning from the information given, we can already calculate the average product. They give the TP, so now we can calculate the average product. So ni we don't have to calculate anything, we just go to the first labor. 8 bahagi 1, 8, 20 divided by 2, 10, 33 divided by 3, 11, and same goes until bawah ni lah. So why must we calculate each of these concepts, each of these TP, MP, AP? Why must we calculate all this? It is because it's important to identify the stages of production. Okay, why is the stages of production important, and why must we know stage 1, stage 2, stage 3? Because soon we need to know, we can identify which production is the most efficient one. Dekat mana production dia paling efficient. Sebab tu we need to know the stages of production. Okay, so how do we identify the stages of production? Stage 1. Okay, we can identify stage 1 from the intersection of marginal product and average product. Jadi bila nampak MP dia 11, jadi average product dia pun 11, jadi dua-dua ni sama. So that is where the stage 1 happens. To identify stage 2, it happens after the intersection ni, MP dia, until it decreases to 0. Maksudnya bila labor dia dah tambah, labor ke-8 ni, dia dah tak contribute apa-apa. That's why the marginal product declines to 0. So from here, this is where the stage 2 ends, on the 0 marginal product. And to identify the third stage, it happens after 0. Maksudnya selepas stage 2 ni lah, selepas kosong, dia jadi negatif. Maksudnya bila labor dia dah tambah labor ke-9, labor ke-10, the marginal product is not efficient on stage 3 because dia dah jadi negatif. Dia jadi negatif 2, negatif 4. That is where we can identify. Okay, why dia negatif? Because dekat MP ni, dia dah berlaku law of diminishing marginal returns. Meaning, even though you can see that it increases, it keeps on increases, but then at one point, it declines. Dia makin menurun sampai kena kosong, jadi negatif. So, walaupun dia dah tambah labor, dia dah tambah makin banyak labor, it doesn't mean that the marginal product increases. See, you can see that it declines, it keeps decline after this 11 one. Dia decline sampai kosong. But, however, even though the marginal product declines, it doesn't mean that it's not good. Because we can refer to the total product. Total product still increases. As you can see, it still increases. Even though sini dah kosong, dia masih lagi meningkat. That shows that kita tak boleh stopkan pekerja tu lagi. Maksudnya walaupun dekat buruh ke-8 ni, dia dah tak contribute apa-apa, but still the total product is still increasing. Therefore, we should not stop the pekerja dekat buruh ke-8. We can only stop the pekerja bila dia dah mula negatif. Maksudnya bila dia dah tambah buruh ke-9, dia dah jadi negatif, MP dia jadi negatif. So we must stop the pekerja dekat stage ni because it is not the efficient stage. So to infer, stage 3 is not an efficient production. And where is the most efficient production? The efficient production is at stage 2. Because why? Because the total product is maximum at stage 2. You can see dia 56 kat sini, tiba-tiba dia turun 54 dekat stage 3, which means dia dah tak elok lah. So dekat sini lah dia paling bagus sebab dia jadi dia capai maksimum dekat 56 ni, which is in stage 2. Okay, so if you still cannot identify or see the clearer picture, then we can head on to the graph.
So, to continue AYUNI's point, I will explain about the stages of production. There are 3 stages of production according to the efficient use of inputs, which are Stage 1, increasing marginal returns, Stage 2, diminishing marginal returns, and Stage 3, negative marginal returns. Stage 1, increasing marginal returns. In stage 1, it begins from the origin until the AP curve reaches its maximum point. When the number of variable inputs are small relative to its fixed input, it is underutilized. The MP will increase due to greater efficiency as the factor of production are used in better proportions. So, the MP and AP curves will intersect at AP maximum point. At this stage, there is a sharp increase in TP curve because TP curve is increasing at an increasing rate as we increase the units of labor employed. Each additional increase in labor units will result in a greater increase of the TP. So, this is inefficient stage due to underutilization of capital or fixed input, such as not enough worker to operate the machine. The TP also is not at its maximum. A rational producer will continue produce goods at this stage as TP increase by increasing more labor. Stage 2, diminishing marginal returns. In stage 2, it begins after MP intersects with AP at its maximum until MP curve equals to 0. The value of AP and MP will decrease but still remain positive. TP increases but at a decreasing rate until it reaches its maximum. Stage 2 is the most efficient stage of production because the combination between fixed inputs and variable inputs are efficient as both inputs are fully utilized. At this stage, there is no wastage and unemployment. A rational producer will want to produce at this stage of production as the TP has already achieved its maximum point. Stage 3, negative marginal returns. In stage 3, it begins when the MP is negative, the TP curve starts to fall, AP will also fall but still will remain positive. This stage also is inefficient stage because the combination between the fixed input and variable input is not economical because the fixed input is overutilized. For example, machine is breakdown due to non-stop operating, or maybe workspace become overcrowded as more workers are employed. A rational producer should not produce at this stage of production because an increase in labor leads to a decline in the total product. The relationship between AP and MP. When AP is rising, MP is above. When AP is maximum, MP intersect. When AP is falling, MP is below. AP and MP.
Economies of scale is the advantage of large scale of production. The economies of scale can be divided into two types, which are internal and external. There are 5 internal factors of economies of scale. The first one is labor economies. Labor economies refer to the specialization of labor and allow workers to concentrate and specialize in jobs that they are more capable of. For example, workers focusing on one task and they become an expert. This will become more efficient and productive than the same worker doing the same work again. As a result, the production will increase and cost of production will be decreased. The next one is marketing economies. Marketing economies is the economies of buying and selling in bulk. For example, big company buys material in bulk and will get discount, making cost of production decrease. The third one is financial economies. Financial economies is where a large company can raise capital easily than a small company. For example, large firm gets loan easily with lower interest rate and longer maturity period. The next one is administrative economies. Administrative economies is also the large firm can set up different departments according to their needs, such as sales department and personnel department. Employment of professionals to identify the advantage of workers. This will ensure higher productivity and higher returns. The last one is risk-bearing economies. Risk-bearing economies is a large firm producing multiple products such as Samsung that produce more than one product such as phone, refrigerator, and so on. If one of the businesses gets down, others can act as a backup. There are only 4 external factors for the economies of scale. The first one is economies of concentration. Economies of concentration refers to the concentration of firm in one area, such as that one particular firm is located in Penang. This can reduce the cost of production. The next one is supply skilled workers. Pool of labor will search for the job. Industry will be able to obtain skilled workers without advertising. The next one is economies of information. Economies of information is to expose consumer to new product firms in the industry and will discuss and get information between companies. This will get acknowledged and increase the economy of scale. The last one is infrastructures. Infrastructures refers to the facilities to the industry such as water supply and road. Infrastructures can smooth the process of whole industry. With expansion and establishment, specialist companies will exist to supply the needs of firm. These economies of scale exist when an increase in the output causes a firm's long-run average cost to arise. It is under law of return to scale in long-run production. There are 5 internal factors for these economies of scale. The first one is management difficulties. Management difficulties is a problem to control and coordinate when there is mass production. Labor need to increase, making the cost of production increase as well. The next one is low morale. Low morale is routine of work for those labor will causing laborers lose interest in work. This will decrease the productivity. Price input will be increased when mass production exists, thus making firms need more input. The next one is technology problems. Technology problems is where a firm needs large scale of production, but their machine or technology have a certain capacity of production. Next is social problems such as nature disaster. This will cause taxes, fines, and traffic congestion increase, making costs of firm increase as well. The last one is wages differential. Firm needs to increase in labor, so they need to increase the wages as well to attract the new labor, making cost of production of the firm increased as well.
Types of costs. There are a few types of costs. First, fixed costs or TFC. The cost of input which a firm incurs that does not depend on its level of output. At output 0, film still has to bear fixed costs. Second, variable cost or TVC. The cost of input which a firm incurs that depends on its level of output. At output 0, variable cost is also 0. Third, total cost or TC. Total fixed cost plus total variable cost. The formula is total cost equal TFC plus TVC. If you want to find TFC or fixed cost, TFC equal TC minus TVC. If you want to find TVC or variable cost, total TC minus TFC. This is the graph of relationship between TC, TFC, and TVC. Average fixed cost or AFC. The fixed cost per unit of output. AFC equal TFC divided quantity. Next, average variable cost or AVC. The variable cost per unit of output. AVC equal TVC divided quantity. Average cost or AC, the total cost per unit of output. AC equal AFC plus AVC. Lastly, marginal cost or MC, the additional cost that results from producing one more unit of output. Next, this is a graph of relationship between AC, AVC, AFC, and MC. AFC is decreasing as output increases. Fixed cost is spread over larger output. AVC is U-shaped due to the law of diminishing marginal returns. AC is U-shaped because it consists of AFC and AVC. The distance between AC and AVC becomes closer as output increases due to the decreasing AFC. MC is U-shaped and cuts through the minimum point of AVC and AC. This is the graph, the relationship between productivity and cost. The diagram below shows the inverse relationship between MP and AP and MC and AVC. When productivity increases, cost declines, and when productivity declines, cost rises. Long run average cost. A period of time where all inputs are variable, therefore all costs are variable. Therefore, LRAC is 1. A graph that shows the different scales on which a firm can choose to operate in the long run. Second, LRAC is derived from series of short-run average cost curves, SRAC, or made up of all the points of tangency of SRAC. Determining the LRAC from the SRAC. Long run is a period where firms plan how to minimize average cost by looking at their short-run average cost curve, SRAC, as their scale of production or plant size. In the long run, firm can adjust scale of production by choosing the plant size which minimizes the cost. For example, to produce 30 units, firm must choose SRAC 2 instead of SRAC 3.